So Sifu is a really great game. If you've been watching my videos, you know it was on my most anticipated list for 2022, and thankfully it lived up to my expectations, definitely, but it was also like a bit of a struggle, a personal struggle. I'll get into that a little bit in a bit, but if you didn't see my other video on Game Ranks, the Before You Buy video, where I get critical, here I just talk about kind of what I love, and with Sifu, it's really just a combination of a bunch of games that I love packed into something much rougher. Spoiler alert, if you haven't already heard, Sifu is really damn hard. It can be absolutely crushing at times, but I think the gameplay loop is so smart, and the way the game encourages you to get better and just how it influences you to do so is so smart and rewarding that it still made me fall in love with it despite it being such a challenge. And for me personally, man, like I actually am, believe it or not that good at video games. It's pretty sad, right? It's like my whole existence is just to play video games and talk about them. I suck sometimes. I do, and I get frustrated very easily. I am a bit of a rage gamer, which you would also probably not believe. But yeah, Sifu pissed me off a lot. Sifu feels like bullshit for a long time. It has enemies that just continuously spam, hound you and whack you over the top of the head until you really click and the game clicks and you realize how to do certain things. It's one of those. I'm not comparing it to a Souls game. Anytime you compare any game to any other game, people just flip out and meme. But I'll only say that like how Sekiro had moments of aha, where it taught you how to really use a mechanic and how you really learn to use that mechanic and then it clicks, then all of a sudden the game just like opens up. This has a lot of moments like that. It's an overused phrase, you know, that it's not for everybody, but like you have to be aware of what you're getting into here. I still think ultimately it's really rewarding just because of what it is. I've said it in other videos, like the Matrix video, how I just like endlessly rewatching fight scenes. Like I just can't get enough. So basically, this is like the video game version of that. It's essentially 5 levels with a boss at the end. It's like a revenge tale where you're setting out to kill these 5 people who wronged you. And it's 5 levels that you replay over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. The game wants you to master these levels. They're also not procedurally generated. There's no surprises or anything like that, but it's challenging enough that it just never goes down the same way twice. Enemies will still always surprise you. A random enemy can kill you pretty easily. It's that type of thing. This game pushes perfectionism to a new level, and a level where, again, like it would be something that would normally turn me off as a player, but for a bunch of reasons, it's worth sticking through. Number one, because the combat is just so sick. Everything about the combat, from the feedback with the DualSense controller, the sound effects, the visuals, just makes for really thrilling punches and kicks, and you can build your moveset out if you want, but really the main baseline moveset is really good enough. You're throwing dudes, you're grabbing dudes, you're doing finishers, and the finishers are all contextual, whether you kick a dude up against a table, push a guy up against a wall and punch him, or like they always all work seamlessly, and it's really great to kind of chain one to another. It's really satisfying. Couple that with the really satisfying parry if you time it just right, or a dodge and you time it just right, because not only are you blocking and parrying, which is key, but also dodging or bobbing and weaving, which is key. Kind of reminds me of like how it felt in Fight Night, where you're kind of like dodging. With here, it's you dodge a high or dodge a low attack, and it's so satisfying when someone with a big stick goes to sweep your legs out and you jump over it, and you're gonna fuck it up like 30, 40 times and throw your controller like I did. But once you start to finally get it, it is so good. The weapons, the way you use them are really satisfying. They're breakable, but you can kind of upgrade yourself so the weapons last longer. But slapping a dude across the face with a pipe or a 2x4 or throwing a beer bottle at somebody's face from across the room always really works. So you have all those fun, dynamic combat moments mixed with the environments themselves, where you might think 5 levels, blah, that's not good. Again, it's really about replayability and mastering, but also these 5 levels, I think, are really incredible from top to bottom. Every single inch of every area, every time you go through a new door, every time you walk down a new hallway, there is like a cool new thing, and it's inspired by a movie, or it's inspired by an old kung fu thing, or another video game, or something you've seen before, and it just makes for these like really crazy, exciting moments. And just the level of detail, I think, is low-key but really good. The amount of destructibility, bottles will break, paper walls will tear, glass will shatter everywhere. Tables and chairs knock over. The destructibility and the interaction with the environments are sick. Not to mention just all the other details, the different types of weather effects and how they cause atmosphere, from fog to smoke to rain, to the sounds and the subtlety of the movements. Like, the game wouldn't play so well if it weren't for those subtle little bit of motion slowdowns when you successfully dodge, to just how things transition and how a finisher will just naturally occur in the environment when you trigger it, with the camera angle shifting. Like, there's so many little things, so many things that clearly took a lot of hard work all coming together to make this like the perfect repetitive fight scene game. And then, of course, there's the difficulty in the replaying and the mastering, and it works because I think the age mechanic thing is so cool. So in this game, you age. Now, I didn't explain this at the top, and you've probably heard this explained in a lot of videos already, but let me just explain it real quick for people who haven't understood it. Essentially, in a level, if you die, you age a year. You start at you're 20 or something like that, and every time you die, you age a year. But if you keep getting your ass beat, specifically by like a similar enemy encounter, the years you age will stack. So then eventually, next time you die, you'll age 3 years. Then eventually you'll die and you'll age 5 years. So it continuously gets more and more difficult unless you defeat certain enemies and knock that counter down a little bit or do certain other things. Most of the time, you're like a ticking clock. And the way it works too is that your character, of course, starts to look cooler and older and more badass, but also there's a lot of actual gameplay stuff that comes with it, and it's so smart how they do it. So two things that I think are really cool. Number one, you unlock moves as you go, and you can repeatedly unlock them to kind of lock them in. But you spend points at certain points to unlock more moves. But the older you get, some of those moves are gated off, and you can't learn them anymore, which I think is the gameplay version of like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, which is so smart. Then you also have this whole concept of replaying levels, right? So you're only ever as good, and I'm repeating some of this in my other video, but like, you're only ever as good as your best run on the previous level. So if you start out at 20 and you beat the first level and you're 25, that's great. That means you start off the next level at 25. If you sucked through that whole first level, but you beat it, you could end up starting the next level at 65 years old, and that sucks. And that sucks because as you get older, you are more powerful because of like life experience. So you can be like this old Sifu grandmaster who kill someone in 2 hits, right? But you're also weaker, and you also have less of a moveset pool to access. And you can only die so many more times before you get to your 70s and it's game over. So the loop, or the real grind, the real trying to master things is because you're replaying these levels over and over and over again, trying to get through them and survive at a younger age. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to go up against the final boss of the 4th level when you're 65 years old, because you're only really going to necessarily have like 1 or 2 shots to win. It can be done if like you're the most badass, elite, perfect gamer, but for most people, it's not going to go like that. So that structure, that loop, that incentive for replaying and mastering and grinding is essentially almost like the video game version, like how the other mechanic with the movesets and stuff and the aging is like, can't teach an old dog new tricks. This is essentially almost like, oh, I wish I could have done this in my 20s. I wish I could have seen this in my 30s, like that type of thing. And I think that's so cool. I think that's so brilliant. Not to mention the fact too, again, like a lot of people will compare it to maybe like a Souls game, or like I brought up Sekiro before, but really what it reminded me of the most is Hotline Miami, in terms of like, the levels are always gonna be the same, the enemy placements are always gonna be the same, but shit happens, and you're gonna keep endlessly like white knuckle replaying and replaying and dying and shit, and replaying and dying and shit, and replaying over and over and over again until you can do it absolutely perfectly and flawlessly. So really, Sifu is kind of like the beat 'em up, like John Wick kung fu badass Hotline Miami game that I've always wanted. And that's another reason why I stuck with this game. I get so turned off by these oppressive, like downright like abusive games, right? But it's just so many things I like. I love martial arts stuff. I love kung fu movies. I love action movies. And this encapsulates all of that because the levels are so creative, because the finishers are so dynamic, every single scenario and every single level, the perspective shift, the lighting shifts, the style, the mood, and the atmosphere shifts. Things get trippy, things get over the top, it really does so many different things that it's like this really fun roller coaster thrill ride. It's only just interrupted by your ability constantly throughout, which on the one hand, just sucks if you just want to have a good time. I personally, when I play games, I just want to have a good time, dude. I want to see some cool shit. I'll have some challenge, sure, but this game beats your ass. And again, because of all the reasons I pointed out, like I do still like it. It's a bold take, but I really do think it's $40 well spent. And again, people will go $40 for 5 levels and you could beat those levels in a couple hours. I disagree. I think there's more to it than that. Maybe it's because I'm not good at games where I got so many hours out of this. I got to the double digits of hours for this, but I just think it's so well made from top to bottom. The presentation, the opening of the game, no spoilers, but that game opens with and you go, damn, that's how you open a game. It's one of those. It's satisfying. It's thrilling to play. You get a sense of achievement out of it. You might get a broken controller or two if you're fortunate enough to be able to smash how much are DualSense? Like $65. It's insane. But it really is, I think, worth experiencing it if you heard what I described and you said, okay, I can do that. I think some people shouldn't. Like this game is rough, and I'm not being like gatekeeping or anything because I also don't like these games, but this one hooked me because I loved all those other elements that I described. So there are just so many moments of style and charm throughout, and the ass kicking is so good. It almost feels like when you're getting a chain going, like when you just walk into a giant room and there's 8 dudes with knives and baseball bats and you destroy each one of them systematically in seemingly one chain. It feels like getting an insanely high combo in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, or doing some S rank like no hit moment in like a Devil May Cry or a Bayonetta or something like that. It's such a damn thrill, and the way it exists just as it is as a product, I think it's pretty damn near perfect. I hate the camera. The camera angles can like just royally screw you over sometimes, and I find it like almost unacceptable. That's the only thing keeping it, I think, from like perfection for what it is. But this package, I think, still just exists as a nice thing. If it never gets a sequel, I just think it's such a cool thing that I'm going to point to and I'm going to go, I'm glad that exists, because I really like the developers' slow clap. Absolver was their previous game, and I was a huge fan of it. It was also very difficult, and it was weird. It's almost like they took some of the best elements and what they learned from Absolver and really just kind of like tightened it and just made it into something that was like exactly what I wanted. I was like, take that cool combat, but take it out of this weird mystical thing and just put it in a badass kung fu style game. And that's totally what they did. And I think from here, they can go further. But if this is it, if this is all we get, Sifu is top to bottom awesome. Again, like if I haven't gotten that across, like I definitely recommend it with the caveats. Know what you're doing, know what you're getting into. You know, watch my before you buy video, watch Skill Up, watch any reviewer you like to watch for different takes and different opinions, because you know it's definitely something. But I like it, and I want to hear what you guys think down in the comments, man. Definitely let me know. Good luck, Godspeed, Spider-Man. But also, let me know how you're doing. Let me know what your favorite moment is so far. If you've already beaten it, congrats, you're a gamer god. But let me know what you think. Let's talk about anything Sifu down in the comments. I definitely want to hear from you, because this one is absolutely freaking wild, dude. But thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. If you support me on YouTube memberships or on Patreon, thank you for having my back. But whoever you are, thanks for being here. If you appreciate what I'm doing here, where I'm just rambling and talking about what I love, you just got to click the like button. It helps me out very much. But I'm Jake Baldino. Thanks for watching. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.